Hello, everybody. Welcome to the webinar about the Global Innovation Awards celebration on June 20th through the 22nd of 2016. My name is Sarah Stray, and I am the Innovation Awards Manager here at FIRST and manage the Global Innovation Award. So I wanted to, first of all, welcome you. Thank you so much for taking time out of this evening to be with us and go over some logistical information. We're going to use the chat feature as primarily the way to communicate back and forth this evening, just to eliminate all background noise. So if somebody could do me a favor and just go ahead and type into the chat box if the audio is sounding okay from my end. So can everyone hear me okay at this point? So if one of you could type back that the audio is great, that would be really helpful. I see some names I know, maybe Asha or Blair or Lori. If you can type in that everything is okay with the audio, that would be great. Okay, great. Thank you. So a couple of things we want to go over this evening. Want to let you know who your fellow 20 semifinalist teams are, go over a little bit about the social media campaign that we have kicking off tomorrow, remind you where the archived resources are that we've been pointing to in your team blasts, give some basic general information, and then we'll spend the bulk of our time just on a high-level overview of the schedule for the 20th and the 21st and the 22nd. And then we'll spend some time going over Q&A. We'll go ahead and take most of those questions via the chat feature, again, just to try to eliminate some of that background noise. So there are 20 semifinalist teams from around the globe this year. As you can see, we have a wide variety of representation. Teams are from all over the United States, and then we also have 3 teams joining us from different provinces in Canada, and then a team from Chile, a team from Germany, and a team from Spain. So a lot of representation from all over the world, which we are absolutely thrilled about. And then the URL down here at the bottom of the page is the part of the Global Innovation Award website where you can actually go ahead and click on a brief team description for all of the teams, and then also a brief description of what their innovative solution is. So I would encourage you to go ahead and have all your team members look at that sometime between now and the event, just to start to get to know their fellow Global Innovation Award semifinalist teams that they're going to have the honor of meeting in Alexandria, Virginia in June. The next thing I wanted to make everybody aware of is the 20 Days of Innovation social media campaign that we have kicking off on June 1st, which is tomorrow. We conveniently have 20 days leading up to the big event in June, and so we thought, why not have a campaign that is 20 days of innovation. So first of all, I just want to thank you. I know that it was some extra work to go ahead and ask your teams to fill out that survey and give us some of that content for the social media campaign, but it was really helpful. And so we decided to go ahead and look and use the hashtag #ILookLikeAnInventor, because I'm not sure if anybody is familiar or saw the I Look Like an Engineer campaign of a few months ago, but it was really powerful and really was quite eye-opening about an engineer can really look like anyone. anybody, regardless of age, ethnicity, gender. And so we thought, what better way to really bring to light how powerful kid inventors can be? People probably are not thinking that a kid can be a real inventor, but we all know that that's what our 20 semifinalists are. So we thought that that was a really great hashtag that kind of encapsulate some of the energy that we want to put out there. So it is primarily a Twitter campaign. We may have some postings on Facebook, but the primary handle for you to follow and do any retweeting yourselves is the @FirstLegoLeague handle. And then secondarily, the @FirstTweets handle will also repost and follow some of what goes out on the social media campaign. So I hope that you look out for that. Starting tomorrow, we are going to feature every single one of the 20 semifinalist teams at least one day over the course of the 20 days. So I'm very excited that that will hopefully get some momentum and excitement going in our community that will culminate in having a really robust audience for the live viewing web stream of the award. Which brings me to my next point, which is, as we have in the past, we are going to be live streaming the award ceremony itself. So this is a great way for you to, share with parents or grandparents or your schools or anybody in your community that unfortunately cannot join as a guest in Alexandria. Definitely encourage them to go ahead and watch the live stream of the ceremony itself. This year we're doing something a little bit new, which we're excited about. The ceremony itself will start at 4:30, but we are going to be doing a pre-show webcast beginning at 4. So in the area where all the teams will be, we will have our Master of Ceremonies, his name is Blair Hunter Mark, go ahead and do some pre-show coverage and talk to the teams a little bit and talk to some of the invited guests and sponsors to really go ahead and get the momentum going, to try to get as many views as we can for that live web stream. So the next thing I wanted to point you to that we have been blasting out in the weekly team blast that you've been getting every Thursday is that we do have an archive of all of the information that you've received to date up online at the Global Innovation Award website pages. So here's the URL. I would definitely encourage you to visit it, utilize it. If anything is no longer in your inbox or attached to an email, no need to worry. It is all archived in one easy place. This morning we were able to post the team schedules, which we're very excited about. I've also attached them as handouts to this webinar. You'll see in the section above the chat feature, it should say 3 of 5. And so those are all of the team schedules for Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. You will, of course, receive them as well in your team registration packet when you arrive at the event, also in a different, easier to read format, but I wanted to get those out as soon as they were completed so that you could start having the lay of the land of what your team was going to be doing for those few days that you're with us in Alexandria and DC. So a couple of bits of general information that I want to make sure everybody is aware of. The Monday practice and team welcome dinner, it's okay to wear anything you would like. That's not formal. It's just a very informal meet and greet and dinner. But on Tuesday and Wednesday, when we are at the United States Patent and Trademark Office, we really would like everyone to go ahead and be in their team t-shirts the entire time, both Tuesday and Wednesday. And just a note, I think this goes without saying at most first events, but it is a pretty large venue and we will be moving to some different areas within it. So go ahead and make sure that both yourself and all of your team members makes the most practical, comfortable shoe choices possible on Tuesday and Wednesday. And then just a piece of general advice for those of you who maybe haven't been to a big urban area before, that we really would encourage you to have your best common sense when you are out in the city. There's a plethora of tourist opportunities in DC, but please do use your common sense and don't go out at night by yourself. You always want to travel in pairs or with someone. The area we are in is very safe, but still that's a best practice that we always do recommend for an event in an urban area. And then for those of you that do not reside in the United States, I wanted to make sure to point out the emergency number if anybody is having a medical emergency or needs help is 911, and you do not need to dial any area codes for that number. So wanted to make sure that all of our outside United States teams did have that. Two actions I wanted to remind you about. The first is that we do need the consent and release forms for each team member that will be attending and each coach that will be attending no later than June 10th. And so that is a week from Friday. So about a week and a half to go ahead and complete that task. And I do apologize that our systems are between seasons. So even though you have filled one out previously for Trash Trek, if you were a US or Canada team, we do need you to go ahead and fill one out again and email it to the generic FLL Innovation Award at First Inspire's email address. And then this is a pre-action reminder. So for the team and the two runners-up that are going to be winning the Global Innovation Award, there is a monetary prize associated with that. And so in order to receive those funds, I would really appreciate it if you could all do the work in advance and go ahead for U.S. teams to identify someone to go ahead and provide you with a W-9 form that will accept the funds on behalf of the team. And for outside U.S. teams, it does need to be an entity that can accept those funds. So it cannot be an individual. It does need to be a school or an organization. So I would ask that you would all preemptively do that work so that if you are one of the runners-up or the winner, that you can go ahead and have a smooth receipt of those winning funds. Oh, sorry about that. Hold on for a second. My slide is not advancing. So next I wanted to go over the high-level schedule for all 3 days that you're going to be joining us. Monday's schedule all takes place at the Westin Hotel, which is one of our 2 host hotels. The address here is at the top. For those of you that are staying at the Sheraton Hotel, we are running a shuttle service, and that will begin at 3:45 p.m. You can just meet down in the lobby, and then our bus driver will go ahead and come and get you to hop on the bus to come over to the Sheraton, and those buses will run on a loop continuously through the end of dinner. So if you're at the Sheraton, your transportation to the Westin is always provided for you. First thing happening on Monday is each team has an allotted 20-minute practice session for judging. There will be audio-visual equipment there. If you do have AV and want to practice with AV, it will be there. And then the other things that you'll need to do in terms of preparing audio-visually for your judging on the next morning, we will have 2 computers available near the registration area, and those will be the exact computers that will be in use for judging lanes on Tuesday morning. And so we ask anyone that does have slides, go ahead and come over to the computer that corresponds to your judging lane, and there'll be a list available to preload your audio visual onto the exact judging computer so we can make sure it's all set, make sure it's working, and the teams won't have to lose any time out of their judging to do any audio-visual loading. So I'm excited about that. From 5:50 to 6:15 on Monday evening will be the coaches meeting. We do have limited space, so we would ask that only one coach per team attends that team meeting from 5:50 to 6:15. And then at 6:30, we kick off a very informal team welcome dinner for teams and their coaches only. And we've got a couple, I won't give anything away, but a couple of fun activities planned for you that night, and we should be wrapped up pretty early, around 7:30 or 7:45 or so, at which time the shuttle service back to the Sheraton Hotel will also run. And then I wanted to just give you a quick visual and reiterate that the handout attached to this webinar, and then also up on the archive page, is the judging schedule by team. These are the names of the judging rooms at the Westin Hotel, and then down the side is your practice time filled in with the team name, so you have that to refer to. Tuesday, all of our activities commence in the morning at the United States Patent and Trademark Office. The United States Patent and Trademark Office, as you can see, has a number of different buildings on campus. We are going to be on Tuesday in the Madison building. Everything kind of starts here, registration is here, and we will be walking through this building to anything else that's happening that day. There is parking available. I know that some of you did choose to stay at a different hotel and may have a vehicle, a bus, or a van that you're coming in. So there are 2 parking garages available, East Garage and West Garage, that are $10 a day. And both those garages, let me go back for a second, are accessible off of this Eisenhower Avenue. And so this is the West Garage and this is the East Garage. And then just a quick visual to give you some context about how close the United States Patent and Trademark Office is to the Westin Hotel. It is walkable. The Westin is over here at that 400 Courthouse Square address. And then at this point down here is the Madison building of the United States Patent and Trademark Office. So it is no longer than about a 3-minute walk. Maybe 4 minutes if you hit some of the traffic stop signs. So very quick and easy walk. And for those of you that are staying at the Sheraton Hotel, the buses will go ahead and pull up and drop you off right at the Madison building at the United States Patent and Trademark Office. Breakfast is available in the hotels from 6:30 to 8:30, and that is for everyone that is staying at the hotel, not just coaches and teams. So if you do have brothers, sisters, guests, breakfast is included Tuesday and Wednesday mornings. 7:15 is the time that the shuttle service will kick off from the Sheraton and come to the USPTO. Team arrival will be between 7:30 and about 8:10 or 8:15. There is one first judging time slot at 8:10, so I expect that you'll look carefully at your team schedule and manage your arrival to your first judging or workshop session time. We do have a pit area in the upper atrium of the United States Patent and Trademark Office. It is not as fancy as you might be used to from some other events. It is only a tabletop display. We do not have the space to give you a 10 by 10 booth or more room or to allow you to put up tents. So please, when you're planning your display, plan it for what would fit on a 6-foot tabletop only, please. And then from 8:10 a.m. to 11:50 a.m., teams rotate through their judging slot. Coaches are allowed to go ahead and be in the judging rooms with the teams. We do limit that to coaches only. We aren't able to accommodate parents or guests. We do have a public presentation time on Wednesday for everyone, which I'll talk about in a minute, to accommodate viewing of all guests. A couple other things happening is Innovation Ambassador training, a patent overview workshop session, and then one-on-one meetings with patent staff, and that you can find in your team schedule to see the exact schedule for the morning. We will then move into lunch. Some teams after lunch, about half the teams do have their judging pit visit. So if you were not seen by the judges in the morning, the other judges are going to go ahead and visit the teams. That way all judges have spent time with every single team, and the duration will be about 7 to 8 minutes in length for that. Immediately after that time, we're going to move into a concurrent workshop with all teams together in the Madison Auditorium, which is called Rapid Prototyping. We do have a fantastic outside presenter coming in from a place called the Mars District Center in Ontario, Canada, who is leading that session. We're very excited about that. Immediately after the rapid prototyping session, we are going on a field trip. As you know, we have been very graciously invited by one of our sponsors, Booz Allen Hamilton, to join them at their Innovation Center, which is in downtown DC. We will take buses over, and due to space limitations, this opportunity is just for teams and coaches. We do not have room to accommodate any guests, but for teams and coaches, it should be pretty fantastic. This center is a primary co-working space of Booz Allen Hamilton, so it's used day in and day out for some pretty amazing things, and it's a beautiful space, and they're putting together a couple of different things for us. Teams will go through rotations to see demonstrations of some of Booz Allen Hamilton's kind of latest and greatest technology, of which there's some pretty neat stuff. So I'm very excited for teams to have that opportunity. It should be pretty eye-opening about how, you know, a big 100-year-old organization like that has really institutionalized innovation within their staff. And then that should commence all about 5:15 in the evening, at which point we will go ahead and have shuttles back to the Westin and Sheridan for all teams. And then just another quick visual, and again, this handout is attached to the webinar, and it's also up on that Team Blast archive space. This is the team schedule that is organized by team name, so you can go ahead and read it horizontally to the time that you will have to be outside the rooms for your judge queuing, when your judge time is, what time your Innovation Ambassador training session is, what time your patent and intellectual property overview session is, and what time you need to be in the lower atrium for the one-on-one meeting with the patent experts. So wanted to give that to you as a reference. You'll also receive one in your team registration packet that is by time, so that you'll have a couple of different easy formats to read to help keep yourself on track that day. We of course also have a plethora of volunteers and human arrows that will help you move through the space. And speaking of moving through the space, I wanted to pause for a second and just give you a little bit of the lay of the land about the United States Patent and Trademark Office. It is a government building, and so while we do have judging in the main Madison building space, there are some security checkpoints that people will need to go through in order to get to the workshop sessions on Tuesday, both to the patent overview session and the Innovation Ambassador session. And so in order to do that, it's very akin to what you would find at an airport, except without the long lines. You will go ahead and need to present a valid photo ID, which is either a license or a passport, walk through a metal detector, and then your personal items will go on a conveyor belt through a machine, just like at the airport. In order to expedite the really kind of quick turnaround times we have between sessions and the large volumes of teams, I would highly, highly recommend that you carry only essential things through to those workshop sessions. So, you know, if you don't need your purse, go ahead and leave it at your pit table. You know, think about limiting what you're carrying with you to go ahead and make those times through to security as speedy as they can be. And then just to note, the time when you are in the portion of the building that's through security, your ID, your license, or your passport will stay on file at that security desk until you exit, at which time you will pick it up. And as I mentioned, judging is not through security, and then the public presentations on Wednesday are not through security. So none of your guests, brothers, sisters, grandma, grandpa, would ever have to go through one of those security checkpoints. So by design, we're trying to keep it as easy as possible, but wanted to make sure that you absolutely knew, do not forget your license or passport. So I wanted to move into Wednesday's schedule for the United States Patent and Trademark Office. Similar to Tuesday, we go ahead and start with breakfast from 6:30 to 8:30 a.m. in the hotels. And again, that's for coaches, team members, and guests, anyone in the hotel. 7:30 a.m. kicks off the shuttle service again from the Sheraton to the USPTO. Little elves that work in the night may have left a team gift at your pit table, so don't be surprised if you come in to something on your table that morning. And then from 8:30 to 3:30, we do have some exhibits open and also the team activities open. So anytime that you are not in a scheduled workshop time or a scheduled public presentation time or a scheduled pit visit time, we would expect that you would be in those team activities, participating in them, going around to the exhibits that we have available to you. A few of our sponsors are exhibiting. We have Children's Museum, some great stuff. We also, of course, have First Tech Challenge and First Robotics competition teams there. We also have the United States Patent and Trademark Office has something called the Race to the Patent game, which they do with EV3s. So something for everyone to be doing no matter what time it is during the day. And so here up at the top are the timings of those public presentation I mentioned. And so there is plenty of room to invite all of your guests to go ahead and come to the Madison South in the lower atrium at the correct time to hear the teams give their presentations. At 3:30 p.m., all of the workshops, everything is concluded for the day, and we're doing an all call to ask that the teams go ahead and remain in their pit area during this time. We will do a walk around with first leadership at this time, probably followed by a photographer, and try to get a lot of photographs at this time. And then also it's really the time for you to kind of encourage your teams to toot their own horns and talk about their innovations. We have invited our ceremony audience to come in advance at 3:30 and invite them to talk to teams. This is something new that we're doing this year, but we really thought, you know, in order to do justice to all of the work that's happened to date, it wasn't enough to just have them come to the ceremony, that we really wanted to provide the opportunity for them to talk to all the teams. So that will happen between 3:30 and 4:15 on Wednesday. At 4:15, teams will begin moving into the auditorium, which is down a level, and then the awards ceremony will commence from 4:30 to 5:30 p.m. Again, that is going to be live streamed. As soon as the ceremony is over, teams can begin breaking down and loading out their pit area. Shuttles back to the Sheraton Hotel will begin immediately after the ceremony has ended. And then for the team that is the winning team and the two teams that are the runners-up, please do not go load out your pit area right away. We need you to stay near the stage. Someone from marketing and myself will be giving more specific instructions that day to you, but we have some first leadership that has an exit time pretty close after the ceremony, and so we need to get some photographs immediately after the ceremony itself. So that concludes the high-level overview of the Wednesday schedule. And again, one of the handouts that you do have attached to this webinar is the handout of the entire team schedule, and I apologize. Oh, there's my slide advancing. So get out your reading glasses. This is, again, it's alphabetized by team name, and you do read it horizontally, but this does tell you the times when you are in each of your workshop sessions. If you have a judging pit visit, what time that is. We are eating lunch in staggered times today, just because we do have a high volume of teams, and then the time for your public presentations. Also on Wednesday, we are inviting in for a field trip, about 130 or so local youth from camps and STEM-related youth groups to go ahead and come and be exposed to First LEGO League. They're having a bit of an orientation, and they will also flow through and take the team activities, join us in the expo, and take the rapid prototyping session that the semifinalist teams took the immediately preceding day on Tuesday. So very excited to have a lot of local youth there. We hope that you know, your team gets a chance to talk to them and inspire them about what innovation means to the teams, to you, and hopefully get some sparks lit with some underserved youth that we really wanted to come in and have this experiential day with us on Wednesday. Okay, that concludes the high-level overview that I wanted to go through today. And so I'm going to go ahead and open it up for questions. And I think the way I'd like to do this is, if you do have a question, to go ahead and chat it, put it into the chat feature now, and then I will take questions in the order which they come to me, and that way we can just try to eliminate background noise. And I'll go ahead and do a long, awkward pause now to give time for people to go ahead and type their questions. So one question that I see here, someone asked if we will provide a clicker for the slideshow, and the answer to that is yes. Both of the judging lanes, both of the rooms will go ahead and have a clicker if you do have that need for your audio visual with judging. And then another question was, will there be a board to hold a poster? And I'm not sure if this question means the judging session itself or in the pit area, but I can go ahead and say that the answer can be yes. If you do have something that needs to be on an easel, I know that we will have them at the USPTO, and I'm going to write a note to myself and make sure that they, each of the judging lanes has a easel. These are great questions. Thanks so much. And I think I see some other ones. And so I did have another question about leaving materials in the pits. The USPTO, unlike maybe some places where our events are normally held, because it's a government building, behind the scenes there are everywhere that you are is on camera somewhere being monitored by security personnel, so there is definitely an increased security. We do know that security will be in that area overnight. I would not leave anything between Tuesday and Wednesday of value, so I would not leave a laptop in the pit overnight, but in terms of display boards or anything like that, the building itself does get locked down in the evening, and there is a security guard that walks that 2 levels of the Madison area. in the evening overnight. And then another question we got was, how large will the screen be for the presentations? I would say very large. The place where we are for judging is a very large room, and all of the audiovisual at the USPTO is really high-tech and built in, and so it's an extremely large screen that drops down from the ceiling that will be utilized. And if the coach who asked that, if you need more specifics than that, you can go ahead and type in again, and I'm happy to ask the USPTO to go ahead and measure more exactly what the size of that screen will be. Again, these are great questions. And then another question I got was, can you show again how to access this presentation file? So absolutely I can. Let me see if I can scroll back. Okay, so this is the URL where all of the team schedules are up online, and then also each of the team blasts that you have already received are up online as well. And I can go ahead and email out this link in the next team blast just to make sure that it is clickable and at your fingertips. Great question. So another question was, who does the practice judging with the kids on Monday? And so the answer to that is just there is not a first staff person or a judge doing any kind of practicing in terms of giving feedback to the teams. It is just a 20-minute session, practice time for you and the teams to go ahead and have a session to iron out the kinks, to get ready for the next day. A lot of teams we've found when we host World Festival, we always do host a time to go ahead and have practice judging. Certainly if you feel like you do not want to do that with your team, you do not have to utilize that time, but we did want to give everybody a private space, a 20-minute block of time to go ahead and do some practicing with their teams on that Monday evening. And then another question is about the public presentations and what that entails. It's designed for the teams to go ahead, not have to prepare anything new or different. It is just a repeat of what they presented to the judges previously. And the idea there is that, you know, you guys have worked so hard and you traveled all this way, and I know that there are guests who would love to see the team's work, and so we really wanted to make sure to have a public time that the teams could be cheered on both by the guests that you bring and then also by each other, because you know it's not very typical that a team gets to see another team's presentation, and so we really wanted to do that as well to start to build a sense of community. We also, because of those field trip teams that are joining us, have a built-in audience, and so some of those field trip teams will also be in the viewing audience for those public presentations. Oh, and this is another these are great questions. Thank you so much. About photo IDs through security. Because the youth on the teams are minors, it is okay for them to go through security without a photo ID. We do not, of course, expect, you know, 10 and 14-year-old kids to have a license or a photo ID. So it's for coaches and adults over 18 that they do need that photo ID, that license or passport. The youth are going to be okay to go through without an ID. If they do have personal items with them, you know, like they're carrying a bag or something, that will need to go through security no matter whose it is, but the kids do not have to have a photo ID. That's a great question. Another great question about the schedule for Wednesday for the public presentations. So I'm not sure if you've noticed or not, but It's in a 25-minute time block, and so that encapsulates 5 teams being in your same time block. So we are still going with the timing of 5 minutes per presentation because that's the 5 minutes that the teams have already prepared for the judging. And so 5 teams are in that one time block. You do not have to prepare something for that whole 25 minutes. We'll rotate 5 teams through within that block. Another question about the pit area, will there be a power strip at the pit table? There actually will not be a power strip there. We have found the area where we are is not something that is typically has an expo type event in it. There is limited electricity, and so if you do have a specific need, if you can go ahead and send me an email about that need, I can try to accommodate like a charging station in the pit area, but we definitely do not have the power capability to do a power strip for each and every team in the pit area. Another great question about the pits is it necessary to bring an information sheet for the pit visitors? No, it is not. You know, the judges have all of the team information already that everyone submitted into the portal to try to get to know the teams a little bit, and for our invited guests, what they are going to be looking for is a much more kind of informal conversation than is necessary for the team information. I would say that if you have things that you are particularly proud of or anecdotes from the season, to be prepared to kind of talk to your team members about, you know, this is an opportunity. Some of the invited guests that come to the ceremony are, you know, major first sponsors. Maybe they're a major first sponsor in the industry of your innovation. It's really an opportunity to have the teams learn how to speak publicly to more adults. And also, this whole entirety of 2 days is truly a networking opportunity for you as well to put your innovations front and center, you know, with the thought that you really just don't know who could be coming up to your table and talking about your invention. It could lead you to a new expert, to a new resource. So another great question about bringing your own clicker to advance in a PowerPoint. I would say yes, you can. However, there is not time between the judging sessions or in advance to test that your clicker would work. So if for some reason, you know, if it's universal, I'm sure it would. If for some reason it does not, then we do have the clicker that is there in the room available to you. Another great question about the shuttles going back and forth to the Sheridan and the Westin and the United States Patent and Trademark Office. Anybody can ride those shuttles, of course. So if you have guests that are needing to come over with you anytime, then absolutely they're big buses. There's lots of space. We really realize that it's an inconvenience to be a little bit away, not within walking distance to the main venue, and so absolutely anybody can go ahead and ride those shuttles. Another great question about how much knowledge do the judges have about each team prior to the team judging session. So the judges do have the information that all teams submitted into the portal when you went ahead back in March and answered all of those basic questions about your innovation. The judges will have read those in advance of seeing the teams. Other than that, that's all of the information that the judges do have. Another question about a banner in the pit area. We do not have any pipe and drape up in that area, so There is not a back wall per se that you could hang anything from. The USPTO just, the space is a little bit tight and we do not have that capability. So anything that you do have in your pit table for a display needs to be able to fit on the table itself, or if you have a banner or something, it would need to be attached to the table itself. We do not have any way to hang it behind your pit area. And again, another question about the pit displays. I'm glad you guys are thinking about it. I can tell it's going to look fantastic. We do not have the space to do any kind of floor standing displays either in the pit area. So it really is just a table only. And then a question about the voluntary aspect that we put out to you for some time ago about Team Rush. This is a FIRST robotics competition team that hosts the National Advocacy Conference each year, and it just happens to be immediately preceding this event. And so really happy that we can do some cross-fertilization and support Team Rush in their event and for them to support us. So I do know that the coach of Team Rush has some of your names who have volunteered to go over to the Hill on Tuesday evening. It is not a formal presentation opportunity. It is just a meet and greet with invited legislators and their staff. And like anything, anytime that Congress and the Senate is in session, you don't know who's going to arrive until that evening, and it's just an opportunity for those people that do arrive and are interested would go ahead and come over and talk to the teams. So teams that are going to that event on Capitol Hill can go ahead and bring any display boards over with them. I think that would be really helpful. And then in terms of the logistics and traveling from the Booz Allen Hamilton Innovation Center to that event on the Hill, teams would be responsible for that themselves. Because it is a voluntary event, we are not providing any transportation to that event. Okay, another question about the number of judges. So there are going to be 3 judges during each of the judging sessions. And another great question about if Wi-Fi is going to be available. Yes, there is Wi-Fi in the area where we're going to be. The United States Patent and Trademark Office is being kind enough to go ahead and open up a guest Wi-Fi for us. And there is no password needed to use that Wi-Fi. So another great question about judging, about the proximity of where the judges will be in relation to the teams. It is very close. Although they are larger judging rooms, we are configuring the space such that, the judges will be up at a table in the front of the room and the teams will be directly in front of the judges. And so while the room itself is big, it will be set with some tables and chairs for the next activity. And so, it would be very close and the teams will not need a microphone for their presentations. Another question about team giveaways, which yes, absolutely we would encourage if your team has the wherewithal and capacity to go ahead and do that without placing a fiscal burden on yourselves. Then yes, if you do have giveaways that you wanted to give to other teams, like team buttons or anything like that, then that gesture, of course, is always really, really appreciated. And then I do think that I got a question and I'm not sure exactly what is meant by it. It was about the use of technology for graphics being suggested given the space. And so I'm not sure if that question is related to judging or not. So perhaps if the person that put that question out could just rephrase, that would be fantastic. I had another question about there being a power outlet in the judging room. That is something, if you need power for something, I mean, obviously you'll have your presentation preloaded on the computer, but if there's something else like a prototype or something that needs power, I would just ask that this coach go ahead and send me an email about what that exact need is. I am sure that that's something we can go ahead and accommodate. And I'm pausing to make myself a note of that. Another great question. And great. Team asked about the Global Innovation Award flyer mentioned some team interviews as part of that pre-show coverage. The pre-show coverage is very a short time in duration, and so not every team will go ahead and be interviewed. The determination of which teams will get talked to will be made on site on Tuesday. And it will probably just have to do with, you know, who isn't camera shy. So if you do know of a team member who would love that opportunity, you can go ahead and email me that, and I will pass it on to our Master of Ceremonies in order to make those determinations of which teams are going to do the talking during the pre-show. And then just a reiteration about the path from the pit area to the judging room not being past security, and that is correct. The path from the pit area to the judging room is just down one flight of stairs and not at all through security. And we did that by design just so that that most important portion of everybody being on time for their judging stays nice and on time. And so I had another question about team bringing materials to judging on a cart. As I just mentioned, the pit area and the judging room are between floors, and so the cart would need to go down, up and down an elevator, both for load-in and to go ahead and transfer between floors. So, but that's absolutely fine if they wanted to go ahead and use a cart to bring their prototype materials in. And sorry while I pause for a minute, I'm just trying to digest this next question, make sure I've got it correctly. Oh, okay, great question. And so I've been talking a lot about presentations and teams having presentations in the judging room. That is not at all required. You know, in this day and age, we are seeing more and more teams trend towards that. If your presentation does not rely on any audio visual, that is completely fine. If you have cards or visuals or anything that you know, have as part of your presentation, I think that the judging rooms are so intimate that that would be fine. The judges can go ahead and get up and read them if they need to, or the team can go ahead and bring any posters or visual materials over to the judges to give them a chance to read it. Another question about the dress code for the Capitol Hill session. I actually did talk to the Team Rush coach about this, and we know that I told him that you would already be in your team t-shirts from the events that you're joining us for on Tuesday, and so he was totally fine with teams being in team t-shirts for that event. And then I think a last question was just asking that I reiterate my contact information. So if you do have any questions that you want to take offline or anything that I maybe asked you to follow up on, go ahead and send me an email. And that address is sstray, S-T-R-A-Y, so 2 S's, sstray at firstinspires.org. And let me just check and make sure I have gotten through all of the questions. Okay, one further question about the clarification of judging setup and presentation times, and I would go ahead and, as long as we're still on this slide, the presentation guidelines are also posted on the Team Blast archive page, so I would go ahead and reread those for more specifics about the time for judging. The 5-minute presentation time for this does not include setup time. I mean, obviously, we hope that you are able to set up quickly and leave most of the time that you'll have for judges in order to give the team enough time for a wonderful question and answer session. But it is a little bit of a longer judging time by design than teams typically have at a First LEGO League qualifier or championship event. So no need to panic about, you know, time being taken away for setup. You know, of course, we do hope that your setup is kept to a minimum. We're happy to assist you if you have a lot to carry in. You know, there are Human Arrow volunteers who would be happy to carry something with you. Just let us know what help we can provide for you with that. And I think that brings me to the end of all of my questions. Thank you so much, everyone. These were fantastic questions. Thank you for not being shy about them. We really want to make sure that this is a good experience for you, a great experience for your team members. I know many of you probably thought that your season was going to end, and then this opportunity came about. So special thank you to you for continuing to coach this season. We know it's a big deal, the inspiration you're providing for these teams, and I really hope everybody is excited. And please don't hesitate to email me with any further questions, and we will be continuing to email more final last-minute logistics and team informations. We are doing blasts on every Thursday, so you'll get one the 2nd, the 9th, and the 16th, and then also probably that last week before the event you'll be getting some more frequent emails from us just to make sure that everybody is all set for their logistical information. And again, no question is too small or too silly. We really want to help you have a great experience with your team. So thank you so much, everyone, and good night.